Welcome back to Sports on Tap. It's our Week 1 recaps in Ohio high school football. I'm Rob Trump. We have Josh Effie, Ed Dick, Sean Duffy. We're part of the NEOSportsInsiders.com. You can go there. Also, SportsOnTapPodcast.com. Check out all of our blogs, our stories, our podcasts, all the information you want that we provide you. Our videos are all there on SportsOnTapPodcast.com and NEOSportsInsiders.com.
I like we've changed up the musical portion of the show.
Well, you know, I'm trying to expand our horizons a little bit.
It's
amazing what a great tool YouTube is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now it's time to get into the Suburban League and the National and American Division. First, we'll start with Ed Dick, who's going to cover the National Division in the Suburban League. And, Ed, what do you got for us in the Suburban League, National Division?
All right, well, this is the third season for the Suburban League's two-division format, kicked off Friday night. We already went over the North Ridgeville-North Royalton game. As you remember, North Royalton had a 2-minute drive at the end of the game. Joey Marusik found Miles Sternad for a 12-yard touchdown, and a 24-21 win over North Ridgeville. Their senior running back Shamari Williams and their sophomore quarterback Tyler Richmond. North Royalton is 1-0. They will travel to Parma. North Ridgeville will begin Southwestern Conference play at Grafton, taking on the Midview Middies. Next, we're going to travel to Wadsworth. Second-year head coach Justin Todd's Grizzlies took on Akron Firestone. Senior quarterback Joey Bachman picked up right where he left off last season. Bachman was sensational. He threw for 4 touchdowns. He rushed for 2 more. The opposite of Mr. Johnny Major from Strongsville, who I believe had 4 rushing, 2 passing. Joey Bachman completed 20 of 29 passes for 287 yards. He also rushed 14 more times for 65 yards, leading Wadsworth to a 55-14 win over the Falcons of Firestone. Wide receiver Mitchell Blackburn caught all 4 touchdown passes en route to a 6-catch, 139-yard effort. The defense stepped their game up. They held quarterback Gavin Cornelius just 76 yards passing before his exit in the third quarter. Wadsworth is 1-0. They're going to travel, or they're actually going to host Worcester next week, while 0-1 Akron Firestone will travel to Copley. Hudson, the Explorers, they travel to Austintown to take on the Fitch Falcons. Explorer quarterback Colt Palais rushed for a 1-yard touchdown and also completed a 68-yard touchdown pass to Greg Malley. Hudson's stout defense helped Fish at just 7 points in their 20-7 victory. Senior kicker Grant Gagne was good from 27 and 34 yards out to round out the scoring. Hudson is 1-0. They're going to host Strongsville. Austintown Fitch is 0-1. They will travel to Brunswick. Stowe Monroe Falls, the co-champions of the Suburban League National Division, along with Hudson. They started out a little slow in their matchup against Mentor Lake Catholic, falling behind 10-0. However, the Bulldogs stormed back behind 4 rushing touchdowns by Corian Rice, covering 43, 10, 13, and 5 yards, and they ran away with this game by a score of 28-18. Tyler Shaver recorded an interception to stave off a last-ditch effort by the Cougars. Stowe Monroe Falls is 1-0. They're going to travel to Kent Roosevelt. 0-1 Lake Catholic will host Cleveland Central Catholic in their Week 2 contest. Next up, Macedonia-Nordonia. They ran into a buzzsaw from Bedford. Not a whole lot went right for the Knights. After a Robbie Levick touchdown pass that cut Bedford's lead to 14-10, the Bearcats rattled off 34 unanswered points. They won 48-10. Levick completed 10 of 21 passes for 106 yards and 1 touchdown. Wide receiver Julius Jones caught 3 passes for 82 yards. If this guy was in my conference, he'd probably be my conference player of the week. Bedford running back Kenneth Wilkins rushed for 4 touchdowns, and he added a 44-yard pick 6 for a 5th touchdown. The Knights of Nordonia, they are 0-1. They will travel to Elyria. Bedford will host Peninsula Woodridge in a Week 2 matchup. We do have a Suburban League cross county matchup here between the Twinsburg Tigers and the Copley Indians. We talked a little bit about both these teams in our preview. I mentioned that Twinsburg caught some fire last year. They seemed to really pick up some steam offensively, and that seemed to carry over to 2017.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was an interesting game to say the least because it was really the beginning of the post-Weston Bridges era in Copley. And the game started out pretty good for Copley to begin with, but they held a 14-6 lead at halftime, and then, I mean, I'll turn it over to you, Ed, but Twinsburg just went on a tear in the second half.
Yeah, wide receiver Trey Radford caught touchdowns from not one but two quarterbacks. Anna Vandermatter and Seth Grabowski both found Trey Radford for touchdowns, and running back Cameron McLean. These are all guys you heard, maybe with the exception of Grabowski, but these are all guys you heard last year as they were starting to pile up numbers at the end of the year. Cameron McLean added a rushing touchdown to lead the Tigers to a 34-14 victory at host Copley.
Yeah,
and you can tell, one of your concerns with Copley last year was the reliance on Weston Bridges,
right?
Mostly on offense, but he did contribute a lot on the defensive end as well.
He did. I mean, I can remember at a certain point last year we covered the Copley game, and Weston Bridges ended up playing corner for the first time in his career. He played really well, and I think he started playing that double duty towards the end of the season. Outside of a couple of bright spots, Copley was kind of searching for answers. I mean, they had a 5-yard touchdown run by Blake Traylor. That's about it. They had that 14-6 halftime lead, but the defense just got bowled over in the second half. Hats off to Trey Bradford, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the guy was on fire for Twinsburg. Unfortunately, Copley has to kind of scratch their head and say, look, we got to figure out defensively what we're going to do, and maybe start finding a little bit more of an identity on offense. You want to continue that running dominance because that allows you to control the clock and not maybe put your defense out and so vulnerable. But Twinsburg played very, very well in the second half, and it's definitely one of those things where it's going to be good for them. Now Copley will have to bounce back against Akron Firestone, whereas I believe Twinsburg plays Solon next week. So I mean, Twinsburg is, they can't rest on their laurels beating a team like Copley. They got Solon. Are they hosting Solon?
They will host Solon next week. Twinsburg continues a very very tough non-conference slate before they get into conference play in the national division. And then the last trip, at least for me in the national division, is another interdivision matchup between Kent Roosevelt, the Rough Riders from the American Division. They hosted the Cuyahoga Falls Black Tigers from the national division, and the Rough Riders took it to the Black Tigers.
Yeah,
especially on the ground. Cuyahoga Falls wide receiver Deshaun Brazil, he caught 11 passes for 90 yards and a touchdown to lead the Tigers offense. But Sean, the Rough Riders, they had the Black Tigers number, especially on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, Rough Rider running back Nathan Jones carried the ball 25 times, 168 yards, 3 touchdowns. Clearly the focal point of Kent Roosevelt's offense. Quarterback C.J. Anderson was able to provide a steady passing game, went 13 for 18, 110 yards. The thing that struck me was how well the Kent Roosevelt offensive line was able to give Nathan Jones a running room. Now, hats off to Nathan Jones, a very special talent. I mean, that's a great opening game for the season. Cuyahoga Falls, to their credit, hung in there against a team that was, I think, clearly better offensively. And again, maybe some issues for Kent Roosevelt in the defensive area like they've had it the last couple of years, but very impressive for Kent Roosevelt. They improved to 1-0, but they have Stowe coming into town next week. And my friends, if you think you had a good game against a team like Cuyahoga Falls, Stowe is a different animal. So they will need everybody contributing for that game next week. And I believe the Cuyahoga Falls plays.
They will host Norton next week. Yeah, they'll host Norton next week. Cuyahoga Falls, their only victory last year was over this same Kent Roosevelt team, and they've had some issues competing in the Suburban League National Division since they joined, and some of the schools that Twinsburg is coming on. You have perennial powers, Stowe, Hudson, Bruxville, Broadview Heights. Nordonia is always a tough out. You can't. They went 3-7 last year, but you can't sleep on them. And North Royalton, they started out with a really good win against North Ridgeville. So, I mean, it's going to be I'm hoping that Cuyahoga Falls can get another victory here early, get some confidence up, at least get off the schneid, because I think wins are going to be tough to come by for the Black Tigers when they get into the National Division play. So that wraps it up for the Suburban League National Division. The Player of the Week, I believe he was also the Player of the Week in Week 1 last year. Senior quarterback Joey Bachman from Wadsworth. Once again, he threw for 4 touchdowns. He rushed for 2 more touchdowns. He completed 20 of 29 passes for 287 yards. Then he also rushed 14 times for 65 more yards. So Grizzly quarterback Joey Bachman is the Suburban League National Division Player of the Week. And I will now kick it over to my co-host, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy for the Suburban League American Division.
Thank you, Ed. Going to touch again on the Aurora Solon. What a close game going on. It was kind of back and forth throughout the game. Started off with Thomas Wilkes, swung out to the sideline on a 15-yard touchdown pass from senior quarterback Joe Cardellone. I hope I pronounced that right, but again, with knowing my track record, I can't really.
He's no Seamus.
He's no Seamus, that's right. On the ensuing kickoff,
Bad joke.
Aurora's wide receiver extraordinaire Gavin Blunt answered on an amazing 84-yard touchdown kickoff return, and the game was tied at 7. I'm sorry, game was 7-6. That was the score that held up until the third quarter, which is where Solon began to establish a little bit of a dominance there. One of the things that I saw, and Josh pointed it out maybe on his was the turnovers in this game. Aurora turned the ball over 5 times, and against a team like Solon, who is good enough to overcome mistakes and allowing them. You don't want to allow a team like Solon opportunities to take advantage of, and that's what happened in this one. Aurora just unfortunately did not have the firepower, did not have the ability to come back. They ended up losing that game 15-14. The Green Men look to right the ship as they host Euclid, and as Josh mentioned earlier, Euclid's a team that's got a lot of athletes. It's not in a very easy out for Aurora, but they need to right the ship quickly before getting into league play. Moving on, Barberton travel into Norton, and this was Barberton's game all the way from the beginning kickoff to the end. Zane Reese had over 200 yards passing, hitting Garrett Turnbull, Key Thompson, and Malcolm Boyd. Barberton rushed for 161 yards compared to Norton's total of 16 rushing yards for the game, as well as the Barberton defense holding the Norton to 116 total yards for the game. So this was a domination from the beginning to end. Obviously, this is a great start for the Barberton Magic as they look to overcome maybe and take advantage of Aurora's misstep against Solon and possibly a tough out against Euclid, and going into conference play as probably one of the premier teams in the Suburban League. We touched on Twinsburg and Copley. Obviously, Twinsburg was able to rattle off 28 unanswered points in the second half to secure that victory. We discussed that at length when Ed did a fantastic review of that game. The next game I want to touch on that we didn't mention was the Ravenna-Talmadge game. This was an interesting game. Ravenna opened up a double-digit deficit going into the second half, and Talmadge, led by running back Ty Shannon, who accounted for 216 all-purpose yards, 24 carries for 124 yards traditional rushing, 2 touchdowns, as well as 4 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown.
Workhorse.
Was clearly the chocolate milk getter of this game. And it was the focal point of the Talmadge offense. The Talmadge was able to rebound and come back and win. And he was able to secure that victory for them. Talmadge will look to keep this going as they travel to Ellett in week 2. Then we're moving on to Brunswick versus Highland. This game was touched on again by Josh. Kind of going over some of the hits that he mentioned. Jake Rogers from Highland had a game for himself. He on all facets of the game. He had 4 receptions for 125 yards, including a 59-yard touchdown, 5 rushes for 30 yards, all in the first half. He had an interception return for 36 yards, which correspondingly led to a 22-yard touchdown, a 45-yard kickoff return, and recovered an onside kick. He accounted for 256 all-purpose yards. Highland's quarterback Matthew Ernest finished 8 for 20 with 195 yards, and Highland running back Brent Panikvar had 15 carries, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns. While all this was going on, Highland's defense was doing the exact same thing they did for most of last year. They held the Blue Devils just 38 yards on 20 first-half plays, 9 tackles for loss, 5 pass breakups in the first half, and the Blue Devils only were able to convert 1 out of 11 third downs and 1 out of 5 fourth downs. Brunswick seemed to find some rhythm in the second half, but unfortunately, I wanted to say that may have been an issue of where Highland thought they were up big enough to where they may have let their foot off the gas. Coach Gibbons is not going to let them forget that because a team like Brunswick was very dangerous when they started completing short passes for Highland defensively. Now, Highland will, again, as you mentioned, Josh, will host Medina for the first ever meeting between these two schools. Going to be a very, very interesting game. We touched on the Kent Roosevelt and Cuyahoga Falls game. What I wanted to go on to is the Buckeye hosting Revere hosting Buckeye. And one of the interesting storylines coming into this was how the Buckeye Bucks were going to react to a new coach. Well, I have here a little thing I said, new coach, new offensive style, same results for the Buckeye Bucks. Quarterback Adam Fauver returned to the Bucks after 1 year after hurting his knee against Revere. He went 8 for 10 with 124 yards and 1 touchdown passing. He had 22 carries for 64 yards. One of the things that was talked about, specifically in the great write-up in the Medina Gazette, was how when he hurt his knee last year, he was playing a completely different offensive set. As we know, Coach Penzoni liked to run more of a spread offense. Well, Coach Dennison, his offensive style is he wants to coach. He runs more of a quarterback under center, more of a pro-style offense. So there may have been concern if Fauver was the right quarterback coming in. Obviously, he laid those suspicions to rest because he had a great game. Buckeye running back Dominic Monaco had a 47-yard touchdown catch from Fauver, and Buckeye running back Anthony Watkins had a 45-yard touchdown scamper to add to the Buckeye lead. The Buckeye defense absolutely dominated the Minutemen. Gage Williams had 2 sacks. Isaiah Williams had 1. Evan Tessar had an interception. Austin Beer and Schultz had key tackles. And Pat Caniglia broke up a pass in the end zone. Revere's only touchdown came from running back Matt Busser late in the fourth quarter against much of the Bucks' second-team defense. Busser would finish with 16 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown, and 6 receptions for 94 yards. Revere falls to 0-1, and they will look to get on the other side of the winning ledger when they host Eastlake North. Buckeye will travel to Rocky River in Week 2 and look to dominate once again. That is what I have for the Suburban League American. My player of the week is Talmadge running back Ty Shannon. With 216 all-purpose yards, 24 carries for 124 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 receptions, 95 yards, and a touchdown. He was the spark plug that pretty much that caused the comeback win for Talmadge. So congratulations to Ty Shannon. He was fantastic in that game. Congratulations, really, to him. And this was a tough decision for me, guys, because when you look at what Jake Rogers did against Brunswick, when you look at what Nathan Jones did from Kent Roosevelt, and what Ty Shannon did for Talmadge, it was a toss-up. But I'm going to go with Talmadge because I don't think we give them nearly enough love. So let's give some Week 1 chocolate milk to Mr. Ty Shannon, and congratulations to you.
How much chocolate milk does he get? Just one?
I mean, 216 all-purpose yards.
That's impressive, yeah.
3 touchdowns. You know what? I'm going to go with a big dog. I'm going to go with a 24-ouncer.
Nice.
Yeah, why not?
Well, congratulations. Those teams get off to the right start in Week 1 of the Suburban League, and it's going to be fun, really, to follow that division, or both divisions, rather, the American and National, as they go on. And we know they have non-conference games still going on, at least in your Suburban League, where in the Southwest they're getting into conference play. But it's going to be fun this whole year. I mean, the Greater Cleveland Conference, too, a lot of good games in Week 1. Some come from behind wins. Yep. Maybe some surprises and some not, but I think getting that Week 1 win is always important to start the season.
Well, and Rob, we don't usually cover them. They are not in the conferences that we cover. But, I got to give a congratulations out to Normandy. Mm-hmm. Speaking of getting that Week 1 victory, they actually broke and snapped their 41-game losing streak this past Friday. So congratulations to Normandy. I mean, that's, we know losing is not good, but you're losing 41 straight games. That's over 4 years of not winning a game in high school. So so congratulations to them getting off to a good start. Hopefully that leads to a lot of more good things to come, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive to get that win. So congratulations to Normandy.
And just to go off the real quick, shout out to my alma mater who hosted Perry this week. Perry came in, a very tough team to play, and my Vandalia Butler Aviators were up to the task, but unfortunately they lost a close one. They were down a little bit. They put on a little bit of a comeback in the second half. Fortunately, Perry just may have been a little too tough for them, but all out congratulations and great job to my Aviators.
They
0-1.
were close to up to the task, but weren't up to the task.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Okay,
Just
Seamus.
kidding.
Yeah, let's.
I know. Hey, that's right. Seamus.
Yeah, it is, right?
Doesn't get better than
No,
that,
no,
folks.
it's not right. That's what we're trying to tell you.
It doesn't
It's
get
not even
better
close
than
to right.
that. And he waited till after the whole entire thing was over so I could say it about 4 times.
Well, it's a lot funnier now.
I know, exactly.
If I would just stopped you
And
the first time.
Again, I
Seamus,
want to
Seamus,
apologize to him.
Seamus.
I mean, one joke
Seamus.
joke after the first time
Seamus.
only lasts for that one time, but I let you go 4 times, so now it's
That's
Sorry
going to
to
be
Mr.
that's
Higgins.
a legendary moment
He
for our
goes,
show.
It is.
Quantity over quality there.
yeah.
All right, we'll step away, take a short break. We're going to talk about our game of the week from last week, which was...
Olmsted Falls, Brecksville, Broadview Heights.
That was a great game, and we'll talk all about it and recap it when we come back and talk about our upcoming game of the week. You're going to want to hear it. When we come back, we're Sports on Tap. It's our Ohio High School football coverage Week 1 edition.